Child sacrifice began in prehistoric times with the goddess of fertility. In the area where Abraham lived, her name was Astarte, and she was the queen mother. She had 7 different consorts. One of them's name was Yahweh, and that was the god that Abraham worshipped. Now, one of the ways of worshiping the goddess of fertility was sacrificing children, and not just any child. This was the most treasured, the firstborn, the one that mattered more than all the rest, because that was how things rolled then. Here's what happened though. That concept infiltrated into all sorts of other different religions around the area. It wasn't unique to the goddess of fertility, because as time expanded and generations moved on, they kind of took this on, that we needed to sacrifice something to prove our love, and that something was often a child. Now, we think of this as gruesome and horrific and that it should never happen, right? But let's explore this a little bit. Now, Abraham actually sacrificed both his sons in different ways. He was a bad dad. This choice that he made to sacrifice his children caused immense harm that we continue to struggle with today. Ishmael and Isaac continue to battle. These are the wars that happen between Islam and Christianity or Judaism. It's all Abrahamic children. They all suffer from the bitterness of years and years and years of warring. So it's something that is notable. The sacrifice of children always has consequences. It always causes spiritual wounding. It is always going to be problematic, always. Now let's fast forward a little bit into the New Testament, because you might say, yeah, this is what they did in the olden days, but not in the more modern New Testament times, which is what we believe. Now, consider this verse. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son. John 3:16. The principle of child sacrifice is still inherent in the theology of many, many, many people's beliefs. Hundreds of thousands of belief systems around the world. This is problematic when you are the child of a devout church member, of a pastor, of a leader, of a district superintendent, of an evangelist, of a general superintendent, of whatever role you have. If you have been sacrificed, you know it. You know that you were sacrificed to prove the love of this parent, for the church, for God, to demonstrate his devotion, and yada yada, and on we go. So now we have the backlash, the second component, which is now, what does the child of that church leader do with the fact that they were sacrificed? That's spiritual wounding. And that is the whole reason why I wrote my book, Who Am I? A deep dive through spiritual wounding to identity. Now, in chapter 6, I discuss, am I a human sacrifice? There's a lot of ways of looking at this, and I looked at that story of Abraham from the Judaic perspective, from the Islamic traditions, from the Christian perspective, from all sorts of different resources. So you're going to get more than you actually get in the Bible. But I want to explore that concept of, am I a human sacrifice? And there's a picture that I have in here that is such a big deal about all the different ways that we sacrifice ourselves, as sacrifices. So here's what I am posing. Humans should never be sacrificed. As a therapist, if I observe abuse of this kind, I report it. It is not something that is humane, it is not something that is civilized, and it is something that will always cause more problems. So what do you do with the theology? That's something that you're going to explore in my book. But I want you who have been sacrificed by your church leader parents to know that it wasn't okay. No way, no how, it wasn't okay. Humans should never be sacrificed. Humans should never be an object, especially if they are the child. No human should be, but the vulnerable child who is dependent upon the parent should never be sacrificed to a parent who is a church leader, to the church. So I want you parents to consider how you are communicating your choices to your children. Do your choices reflect that they are a priority, or do they reflect that you are sacrificing them to prove you are worthy within your belief system? If you are doing that, it will cause great harm. It is not okay. There are other ways of sacrificing as well, and that is seeking the praise of public opinion. So we're talking about children who make their own choices, who don't necessarily adhere to the same religion as their parents or their beliefs, who are then ousted, estranged, spoken of. Prayer requests can be used as gossip. all sorts of things are choices are made by parents to note, I have sacrificed that child for the church. I am allegiant to the church. I will sacrifice that child to prove that I am worthy of this belief system. It is always harmful, guaranteed and promise. I hope that you savor this chapter in the book. It was written with a lot of love and a lot of care and a lot of experience, both as a therapist and as a child of church leaders. And I hope that you find some meaning in it. Again, who am I? A deep dive through spiritual wounding to identity. My name is Kara Hudson, and I'd love to hear your comments below. Thanks so much. I'll see you soon.